So beginning with our legislation on North Korea, that country remains one of the greatest threats due to the fact that they are developing nuclear weapons, and given the attitude of Kim Jong-un, one of the greatest threats, not just to the United States, but to our allies in Northeast Asia. The dictators of North Korea have repeatedly defied the international community's efforts to dismantle the nuclear program there. For years, North Korea has repeatedly dangled the promise of nuclear disarmament and dismantlement of their program in order to get existing sanctions eased. It has been 6 years since North Korea walked away from the negotiating table. The only thing that has changed since 2008 is that North Korea is closer to miniaturizing a nuclear warhead. Our North Korea policy, frankly, has been a bipartisan failure. Last year, when we held a hearing on North Korea, it had just completed its third nuclear test, and it had successfully launched a 3-stage intercontinental ballistic missile. Today, reports show that North Korea may soon conduct a 4th nuclear test. The administration says that its North Korea policy remains one of strategic patience. It is now time for Congress to lead by providing a clear legislative framework for sanctions to deprive Kim Jong-un of his ability to build nuclear weapons, and to deprive him of his ability to repress and abuse the North Korean people. The North Korea Sanctions Enforcement Act seeks to apply the same type of pressure that the Treasury Department successfully applied in 2005 when it targeted a small bank in Macau that was complicit in Pyongyang's counterfeiting. This was the Banco Delta Asia. This impact sent a ripple throughout the international financial system. If you'll recall, 10 other banks complied once Banco Delta Asia was named, and as a consequence, hard currency was cut off from North Korea. It seriously crimped the financing there. It stopped the ability for them to continue their buildup on their missile program. It made it impossible for the dictator there to pay his generals, which is never a good position for a dictator to be in. So this was one of the most effective steps we've taken against North Korea. It lasted in place, as I recall, about 8 months until the State Department brought significant pressure on Treasury, and this was under the Bush administration. State was interested in getting them lifted in the hopes that that would then get North Korea to the table. Of course, those negotiations proved to be fruitless. And we lost the ability at that time for the one thing that had held in check the ability of the regime to continue on its program. This legislation we have with us today enables our government to go after Kim Jong-un's illicit activities, just like we went after organized crime in our own country. And it does so by interdicting shipments and disrupting the flow of money. And these sanctions target North Korea's money laundering. Just as in 2005, it was a case of them counterfeiting $100 bills that got us to the point where sanctions were put in place. They're involved in money laundering. They're involved in counterfeiting. Of course, they're involved in illicit smuggling and narcotics trafficking, for those who have watched the way in which the regime gets the lion's share of its hard currency. And there is a focus on North Korea's deplorable human rights violations in this legislation by targeting those officials responsible specifically for torture, for the gulags, for the extrajudicial killings that are sadly a fact of life in North Korea today. So this bipartisan piece of legislation has over 135 co-sponsors. It's garnered the support of humanitarian groups worldwide. And humanitarian aid is in no way affected, I should note for the members here,